Eagles fans, just a wrap up of today's WAFL action at Mineral Resources Park, West Coast versus Perth, going down to the tune of 65 points against the team we share our home ground with. Just before I get into the video, guys, if you do watch my stuff and are not yet subscribed, it'd mean a great deal to me if you do consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. So without further ado, let's get into the game. So not something I recommend watching on replay. First WAFL hit out of the season for both sides, of course, being round one. Just a very lackluster show of skills from the Eagles team. Perth were really quite good. And going quarter by quarter, the first quarter we definitely had our chances. We actually had more scoring shots and were going inside 50 quite a lot. But we just couldn't capitalise on the scoreboard. We had a lot of relatively easy shots on goal, but we just fluffed them when given the chance. You know, Harvey Johnston missed one from about 35 metres out directly in front, and he wasn't the only one. In fact, in regards to goal kicking, I'd say the WAFL guys actually looked better. Late in the game, Shannon Lucassen channeled his inner Jake Waterman and bombed one from about 60, which was good to see. On the flip side, Perth had the exact opposite thing. They were just nailing them from everywhere. As you can tell by 24-9, as the final scoreline is just really quite accurate compared to 13-10. We had 10 less scoring shots, but they were just way more accurate. Yeah, first quarter, relatively break even apart from the scoring shots. Second quarter, they definitely got off the chain. We got back a little bit in the third, but I mean, when I say we got back, they still outscored us, but we managed to score 5 goals as opposed to 1. And then in the fourth quarter, they scored again 6 goals to our 4, but they got away late from us and we pegged a couple back. So we never really looked like we're in the game. Having said that, I thought it was going to be 100 plus point belting at one stage. It probably highlights the fact that our 93 point loss versus Peel last weekend in the last WAFL practice match wasn't an outlier. It's unfortunately probably going to be a bit of the norm for us. However, we do have quite a large injury list at the moment to our senior team, so bearing in mind that does very negatively impact our WAFL team. So lower injury list, more pressure on spots in the senior team, better availability of players and better quality of players at WAFL level means we'll see better showing in the WAFL this year. Hopefully that it works out that way because we don't have too many long-term injuries other than, of course, Noah Long and Jacob Newton. The rest of them are shorter to medium term, although we don't know what's really going on with Starcevic, but the rest of them should be back within a few weeks. So hopefully we'll see that injury list die down a bit. And the guys who are best 23 will make it up to the senior side, thus pushing out better quality of players to play for our WAFL team. And we should start to see better results as the year goes on. Fingers crossed, of course, that the injury list actually stays manageable. So as I mentioned, obviously we played a lot more direct footy than Perth. We had 68 less disposals, but we had 5 more inside 50s. Obviously, our accuracy, as you can see there on the scoring, was nearly 20% less than Perth's, which is obviously the game difference right there. I don't know what it is against West Coast sides, either being WAFL or senior, but teams just seem to have their kicking boots on whenever they play us, and it's not like they're lining up directly in front from 10 metres out, although that did happen quite a number of times in this game. They just seem to be able to kick from all angles, which was also happening. So unfortunately, we weren't able to make the most of our similar opportunities. I just want to highlight a couple of things as well before I go into the individual player reviews. They had 2 players of their forwards kick big bags. So one guy kicked 7 goals, another kicked 6. So that really highlights our lack of depth at the key position defender level. Our key position defenders being former West Coast Eagle Callum Jamieson, who's now the WAFL Eagles captain, and of course Rhett Bazzo, who's on his last year on the senior list unless he gets an extension. So this is probably an area of ground that we're all aware of that we desperately need depth in and development players coming up and through. So I really hope this gets addressed at the draft coming into at the end of this year, or maybe we do actually get like a free agent or trade in someone from another club. I'd love to throw a pile of cash at Jordan Butts, who's a free agent at the end of the year from Adelaide. Exceptionally good defender. If you watch his game against Sam Darcy the other week, basically it was just all over him. So the likelihood of that happening is, of course, low, very low, but those are the kind of guys, if they're out of contract, that we should be targeting. If not, we need to bring in some young talent and start developing them to take over, because at the moment, our key position stocks have gone from Jerry McGovern, Tom Barras, and then prior to them we had, of course, Mitch Brown and Eric McKenzie. Then prior to that we had Darren Glass, to Tyler Young, who's we don't know what he can be, but he himself, as a 27-year-old, has barely played. And of course, currently Ruben Jimby, because with Harry Edwards out with that concussion. So not exactly 2018 premiership levels of key position defenders. In fact, we've probably got some of the weakest key position defence stocks in the league, and no real talent coming through beneath them. So unless, of course, the further trend is to develop Shanahan for that role. But anyway, that's going off a bit off topic from this video. That's a topic for another video. Yeah, I guess the overarching thing about this whole game was just a lot of basic skill errors. It's the first game of the season, so, players are going to be a bit rusty, but, you'd think professional AFL players, and I'm talking about our AFL listed players, not the WAFL players, would be a bit better, but didn't seem to be the case in this game, but it is what it is. We'll see if we can rebounce back next week. As for the individual players, I just put a star next to the West Coast listed players, and they're sorted out by a disposal number, so we can see who got the most of the ball. Clay Hall got the most disposals for us with 25. He also had 5 tackles, 5 marks, 6 inside 50s. A bit of a nothing game from Clay Hall watching it, to be honest. Like, he looks pretty decent stats-wise on paper, but, I mean, he was missing flat-footed teammates from 2 metres away by a metre with handballs, so yeah, not really a great showing from him. I would keep him well clear of the AFL senior side for now. He didn't really run or press when he needed to. He just sort of got into a bit of a jog, which is a bit of a shame because I thought after last year when he came back into the senior side, he showed a lot of desperation to chase and harass players with the ball. Now, he's not exactly someone who's been blessed with speed genetically, but you can still go when it's your turn to go, and he just didn't really seem to. So I don't know if he was just switched off a bit this game being the first game, but hopefully he digs in and addresses that deficiency next game, because I'd like to see more from him, and theoretically he should be our Yo replacement. Obviously Elijah Hewitt as well, but maybe not Yo replacement, but at least taking on that big-bodied inside midfield role, which he's actually done decently at AFL level, that Brisbane game being a really good example early last year, but didn't really seem like he could get his head into the game this one. Tyrell Dewar, pretty similar tale. Like, he got into some really good places to receive the ball, but he had 16 kicks, and I swear he had 16 turnovers. He just completely burnt the ball every time he had it. Just constantly kicking to either directly to opponents, Perth players, or if it was a 1v1, he would just kick it straight to the Perth player. So for somebody who in previous years I thought has had really, really good disposal, he's absolutely shocking this game. I don't want to make this video too negative about our players, but I want to give you an understanding that the stat sheet doesn't necessarily reflect how well somebody played. I really like Tyrell Dewar. He's contracted to the end of 2028, so he's got plenty of time. And he's someone I would like to see push his way into the senior side, but he ain't going anywhere with that level of kicking. Really needs to tighten that up. I don't know if, again, first WAFL game of the season against a pretty good opponent, but a lot of these kicks were under no pressure. He just torched the ball. One time he was going for a big run up the middle towards the end of the game after receiving it. Looked really good, and instead of kicking inside 50, he just kicked it straight into the ground in front of him directly to a Perth opponent under no pressure. So head in the game, please, Tyrell. We know you can be better than that. Finn McRae was our third highest possession getter for the game, but to be honest, if you told me he was out there, I wouldn't have believed you. I noticed this in the preseason as well. He just doesn't stand out. I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, and I'm not saying he was particularly bad in this game, but he just wasn't particularly noticeable either. I see him sort of around stoppages and such, so he seemed to be playing either an on-ball or an inside role, maybe that Dev Robinson role, but he just didn't really seem particularly influential in the game at all, despite racking up 20 touches. Ryan Marrick, a bit of a similar tale, mostly in defence, had a few good moments, but a pretty average game. I am of the opinion that one of his skill level and experience, I know he's still only like 21, but with the amount of AFL games that he's had and he's performed decently at, he should be doing better than this in the WAFL, in my opinion. He should be finding more of the ball and defending better. Not a terrible game by any stretch, but this game isn't going to get him anywhere near the senior side. Tom Gross, 16 disposals, looked to attack the ball really hard and go early. He had a lot of turnovers and mistakes early on in the game, but I thought he got better as the game went on. Just bear in mind, it's his first game back, including practice matches, from the time he decided to flying elbow Duggan in the head in that intra-club game. He went out of that game about 5 minutes after that with a semi-serious hamstring injury, so this is his first game back. I'll give him a little bit of a pass because we know that he's led the midfield in the WAFL last year as a first-year player. He's looking a lot bigger this year, and apparently they worked really hard on his tank in the off-season to get him to run out games better. That's probably his biggest challenge as a young player is just increasing his fitness level. So I'm excited to see what he can do. He did some good things, did some odd things, and turned the ball over a bit. But honestly, I don't think his game's too bad for a player coming back from an injury. Luca Grego, I mean, he's probably in the same basket as the other players. Nothing really to write home about. Solid if unspectacular. He did have a moment on the wing where he was running in to mark the ball with no one near him. He was running sort of parallel to the ball to mark. And he's just sort of dropped it straight onto his boot and kicked it straight over the line. So gave a lasso free kick against him. And then the ball went straight into Perth's forward line and they got a goal from it. So you're an AFL listed player, mate. I know you're a second year player, but you shouldn't be dropping balls like that out in the open. And if you're going to fumble it with your hands, not your feet, over the line. Elijah Hewitt, I can see why they didn't bring him back into the senior team. He just does not look ready at all. And to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with his body language at times. Like, he just did not look like he wanted to be out there. Now, I don't know if that's a case of him being disappointed that he wasn't picked for the senior side. We know he's quite competitive and he judges himself quite harshly, and his best is absolutely good enough for the AFL. But you're in a WAFL game, mate. You're a fourth-year player and you've got a high level of talent. I know actually, he's played the last 2 practice games, so it's not like he's brushing off dust. He should be dominating this game to push his case for seniors if he's serious about it. Now, he did have some really nice moments. He wasn't bad with the ball, okay? Don't get me wrong. He was definitely showed that he has skill and class well above his WAFL opponents. There was one where he basically ran through 3 players out of the middle and delivered lace out. But I would like to see him getting another 10 disposals at least from what he did. He got his goal from the goal square, basically. Somebody kicked a dribbler to the goal square and he was about 15 metres out in his own, so all he had to do was pick it up and kick it from 1 metre out. But you've got to be in the position there to actually receive the ball, so that's fine. But yeah, I expect Elijah Hewitt to probably have at least one more hit out in the WAFL before being considered for senior selection. He just didn't look ready to me. Harvey Johnston in a new role up forward actually didn't look too bad. Had a really nice tackle for holding the ball in the first quarter for his first shot on goal, and then missed the subsequent goal 25 metres out directly in front, and it wasn't like it was a narrow miss. It was a pretty convincing miss. Kicked his one goal from a snap from the same position, a good goal, and then missed the other goal, which is, again, a fairly regulation shot for a forward, you would think. Last year of his contract, he is trying out a new role because he's always played sort of halfback flank wing before, and we are pretty flushed for that position, but we don't really have a lot of talent up forward. So I thought it was a decent game. I thought if he actually took his chances in front of goal, he could have had a really good day and probably been close to one of our better, if not best players. But unfortunately, he missed some really easy goals, so that probably takes him down a pegging in my eyes. But I'm interested to see what he can do in that role moving forward. He didn't look too uncomfortable playing that role, so hopefully he can get his kicking eye in, do a bit more practice, and start nailing those chances. Brett Bazzo, 13 touches. Look, as I said, I don't know which one he was playing on, but when one of the key position forwards kicks 7 goals and the other kicks 6, you've just had a bath. So again, Rhett Bazzo, last year of his contract, I really like the guy. He's had a really tough run of it through injury and, of course, his mother passing away in that tragic boat accident a few years ago. But, mate, you're an AFL-listed player. You shouldn't be losing to some tradie kicking 6 or 7 goals on you in the WAFL. You do this full-time. I want to see a bit more from you. I like you, Rhett. I want to see you be successful, and you play in a position that we desperately need depth in, but that showing, it was not good. Yeah, of course, you could say that it's due to lack of midfield pressure up the ground, and you would be right in some circumstances, but being constantly 15, 20 metres behind your man, like, it's just bad positioning. He's pretty much got a free spot on the list if he can show that he's got the will and intent to really play that down defender role. I know that he's in the past, he's usually been a fairly high possession getter, so he likes to intercept mark and distribute off the back line, but we need him to be less early days Will Schofield distributing off halfback, a more 2018 Dow defender Will Schofield just locking down an opponent. Hope he can get his head in the game and improve, because we need him to develop and get better. Instead of starting from square one again with a new key position defender coming in via the draft, which I hope will happen anyway, but it would be a lot easier if we have depth in that area for them to develop. Tyler Williams looked pretty lively. I thought he kicked a nice goal. Second one was a shot, I think, from the boundary, so it was a bit tough, but I thought he looked pretty good. He, looked to harass and great pressure in the forward line. He moves quite well. I thought it didn't really get a ton of opportunity for goals, but looked lively when he was around. I think if someone like Owies has a quiet game on the weekend, I can see him potentially getting an opportunity. Now, the knocks on him would be that he's a first-year player, but apparently he's a really good runner. So I don't think the fitness levels will be an issue like it was for, say, Malachi Champion last year, who couldn't run out full games. Tyler Williams' strength is his running, and he looks physically developed already, to be honest. Yeah, if he gets a few good games under his belt, to this level or higher, I can see him getting an opportunity in a few weeks' time. Bailey Williams, probably the dominant ruckman on the ground. 34 hitouts, as you can see, 4 inside 50s and kicked 2 goals himself, 1 from a set shot and 1 from open play on 50. Was it an amazing game? No, but it was a good game. And I think that probably shows that he can put pressure on Flynn, at least for Flynn to have to perform to keep his spot on the side. He definitely looked good in the centre bounces with the new ruck rule. He was able to get up high, actually palm down the ball to teammates, and looked quite effective around there, and probably broke even around the ground. I thought he was quite good. Happy with his performance, and I think he's probably the one pushing closest to selection so far. Jack Williams kicked a nice goal and then kind of went back for a large bit of the game, took a few intercept possessions, which is pretty good. If he wants a career at West Coast, he's going to have to reinvent himself. And as a backman, probably, that's going to be his best bet, because let's be honest here, he's not getting a game in front of Shanahan, in front of Waterman, or Cooper Duff-Tyler, or probably even Archer Reed at this stage. We've already known that Minnie seems to prefer those guys. Even when Archer Reed was not getting a ton of the ball last year, he still opted to keep him in the side over Jack Williams. Bit of a shame, because the year before, Jack Williams looked really good. He was kicking goals in the forward line. He looked pretty good as a young forward, but I don't know what it was. He seemed to come back heavy last year. He's never been a particularly athletic guy, and he looked heavy last year, and he looks a bit lighter and a bit of better runner this year, because apparently he worked on it quite a lot over the off-season, but he's not going to get a forward gig in front of those guys. His best bet is as a defender, and I hope the club has recognised that, and I hope he's recognised that, because if you're relying on Cal Jamison and Rhett Bazzo to lock down on big WAFL key forwards, it's not going to end well for us this year. And Jack Williams could just say, hey, I'm not going to get a gig as a tall forward. I'm a pretty smart guy at reading the flow of the game and where it's going. I can revitalise my career as a backman, especially at West Coast, which desperately needs one. Apparently he was trialled a bit down there during the preseason, during training. So I think that's probably something worth exploring. And lastly, out of the AFL listed players, well, I mean, let's be honest, we're probably used to seeing him down here, and that's Harry Barnett. Just the 7 possessions. He seemed to play forward. He had 8 hit-outs, but to be honest, I think all those ruck contests were at the forward line. I don't know why they're persisting with him as a forward. He's another one that could potentially be trialled down on the back line, but to be honest, I think this is probably his last year on the list. They kept him on this year. They were impressed with his change in mental application, especially when it comes to competitiveness, because that's always been the knock on him. He just hasn't been physical or competitive at all. He's definitely shown a bit more. I mean, he took Waffle Mark of the Year last year. He showed towards the end of the year he actually can do a bit of bash and crash. I think he just doesn't realise that how big a body he is and how he could probably dominate his opponents, because he did that at underage, but seems a bit of, I don't know, I don't want to throw shade at him, but seems afraid of doing it in the Waffle. So, yeah, I think that this is a pretty typical Harry Barnett game. I mean, in yesteryear, this has actually been a good game for him, but yeah, I just can't really see him going on with West Coast. He just doesn't impact or do anything particularly meaningful around the ground to warrant a place on our list moving forward, but happy to be proven wrong, and I wish everybody the best, so hopefully he can pull his finger out and realise that if he wants an AFL career, he has to do more than what he's currently doing. Big men get a lot of time to prove themselves, because if you can't be good in the AFL, it's better to be tall, but that only gets you so far. So, like I said, I don't want to be a downer in this video, but Harry Barnett, please pull your finger out if you want to continue an AFL career with West Coast, because currently it's not looking good. So just to reflect on that, round out the video, of course, losing by 65 is pretty typical for this side. We're always going to live or die by our availability. We had 13 AFL listed players for this game. I guess the pleasing thing to see is that apart from Barnett, all our top 12 guys were the AFL listed guys, which is a bit of a change from previous years where the WAFL guys would be sort of spread around the top players, if not the best players. So we're actually seeing our AFL players dominate the rankings, at least as opposed to disposals and such on the stat sheet. So, which is a bit better than yesteryear. We can see that the WAFL team is playing like the AFL team, so looking to play a lot more direct with the footy, lower disposals, higher inside 50 count. It's just the disposals, man, they're just letting us down so much. It was very sort of depressing to watch so many simple disposals and kicks to open players just get turned over time and time again in this game. So really hope that's just a bit of rust for the guys. You know, they've played a lot of cracky games, but it's not the same as playing for points. So hopefully we can get a better showing next week. I wouldn't put my house on it based off history, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, that's it for the WAFL review. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if I was a bit negative on the team, but man, it was tough to look for positives in that game. But I'm hoping that as the season progresses, we'll get more to be happy about. Anyway, if you like the video and you're not yet subscribed again, please chuck a subscribe to the channel and a like to get the videos that I do out to more Eagles fans. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully in a positive game review for Saturday night's game. All right, bye for now.